How's it going, y'all? It's Murkrow here again. Some more Draft League content in National Pokemon League Week 4. Now, this is up against Aaron, or Aaron 2420, coach of the Calgary Infernape. So, last week we got our first win of the season against Deebs, who then left the league, which was premeditated. It wasn't that I beat him and he left. It was he was leaving, and that was his last hurrah on the leagues, just to be clear on that, not to tarnish his name or anything. But yeah, Aaron's a cool guy. He's a GBA analyst, which I think is neat. He's one of the Draft League fetuses like Omega Jolteon, some of those young kids that are up-and-comers, and he's got a very scary team. It's a very interesting team. He has Naganadel, Tapu Fini, Scizor, Cresselia, Mega Arrow, Mienshao, Delmise, Miltank, Mudsdale, Houndoom, and Electabuzz. His Z users are Naganadel and Electabuzz, and if you don't remember what my team is, here it is in all of its glory. So yeah, he has Naganadel, which I was dreading playing from the very start, since this thing is very broken, and I was pretty resentful that we allowed it, since this draft happened pretty much right at the beginning of Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and I think during the draft, or in the days following it, was when Naga got quick banned, so it's allowed. This was the very first pick to go in the draft, so yeah, it's very scary, but I do think I can deal with it okay. But obviously, if he is able to just do what he is, if he's just able to, what am I trying to say? If he's able to play it well, then it can just demolish me, since it's a humongous threat, since none of my team takes the coverage of Dragon, Poison, and Fire all too well. I have things that can take one and fire it back, and my one saving grace is that it's very frail, so I can revenge it okayly, and we'll kind of see how we do that. Other threats, Tapu Fini and Cresselia make a very annoying defensive core, which can slow down my Landorus, my Hydreigon, and Lopunny from doing too much work. So my goal in this game was to use some more unique sets to try and lure those guys out, so that my bigger threats could put in some work. Hydreigon, for example, Choice Scarfed is very strong against this team, or just Hydreigon in general, except for the fact that Fini hardwalls it, nothing else switches into it. More or less what I was expecting was Naganadel, Fini, Scizor, Cress, Mega Arrow, and Mienshao. Like, his top 6 are really like the best against me. He could bring like Electabuzz, I suppose, as a way to outspeed and hit the Lando, but he has plenty of other things that can do that. Like, he could have potentially brought like some sort of Delmise set, or some sort of Miltank or Mudsdale or whatnot, but these top 6 were the best. Some notes, Naganadel and Fini don't work great together, since in Misty Terrain, Naganadel's Dragon coverage, assumedly Draco Meteor and Devastating Drake, will be powered down, which is very beneficial for me, since the only thing that can knock out my Porygon 2 at +2 would be a Devastating Drake. So that means that if Terrain is up, then I can take one hit and get off a hit in return to be able to weaken that thing. He does also bring some kind of repetitive things. He likes like Life Orb, SD Roost kind of Scizors, or just Life Orb Roost Scizor. So I was kind of prepared for that. He likes 50% berries on his Tapu Fini, which is definitely interesting. And he often brings like Stealth Rock's Mega Arrow, and he tries to just lead off with it and get the rocks up. I'm going to pause for a second. I thought my music stopped, but it's just like the last couple seconds of that track before it loops back around are just silent. Okay, anyways, yeah, he's very weak to Hydreigon if I can get rid of his Fini. He's really weak to Lopunny if I can weaken Fini and get rid of Cress. Same thing with like Landorus, though Landorus can do some breaking. I've gone on enough. Let's show you the team. I'm not going to hide anything this week. First thing I thought was a very cool set is my Porygon 2 with Analytic, Curse, Foul Play, Recover, and Return. Yes, Curse, that is a move that it gets now. I'm just noticing that I'm missing 12 EVs on my P2, which is unfortunate, and I did have this battle already, so whoops. It didn't end up mattering, but oopsie daisy, I guess. This P2 set's cool. I really like the idea of Analytic plus Foul Play, because it gives me a slightly stronger foul play, which is going to let me hit stuff like the Mega Arrow and Dhelmise and Scizor are the three things I was aiming to hit with this. And yes, P2 gets Curse now, which is something that it was able to get from the GSC Virtual Console thing. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know that P2 can use Curse now, which I think is pretty rad, since Curse P2 is just really sick, because now I can be unbelievably bulkier than normal on both sides, even more than normally. Yeah, so my idea behind this was that I either can weaken stuff tremendously, or I can just kind of win with my P2. Like, if I get up enough curses, like to the point where his Mienshao into high jump kick can't knock me out, and then a following hit can't knock me out or something like that, that'd be pretty sick. I do know and I do understand that Foul Play does not get boosted by Curse. However, it doesn't get paid back or anything like that. That would allow me to hit the Arrow and the Sizz and the Dhelmise for enough damage. Like, it learns Thief, but Thief is weak, and I felt Foul Play would be just a better move overall, since it lets me 2-hit KO the Arrow, it lets me almost 2-hit KO Scizor depending on his set, and it'll let me do a lot of damage to Dhelmise if he chooses to bring it, which I really don't think he will, but it was just in case. But yeah, enough special defense to take hits from Naganadel. It lets me, this guarantees that I take +2 Poisonium Z after, no, just from full, not after rocks, because Z moves are a little too strong for P2 with hazards up. However, his rocker is Aerodactyl, which my team should be able to pressure pretty decently. Next, I've got my second kind of lure to his fat. The reason that I consider P2 a lure is that ideally for him, like a taunt, Nature's Madness kind of Tapu Fini would be able to shut down my P2 before it can do anything. But if it like comes in on the Curse and then I'm able to hit with a +1 Analytic Return as it taunts me, then that's going to put a huge dent in it, and then afterwards he has to switch out and force things to take hits from P2, which is relatively strong. Like, the Analytic boost with Curse is cool, since I'm guaranteed basically to get a 1.3 boost on top of whatever Curse boost I get. So yeah, that's neat, I suppose. Next, I have an Infestation Reuniclus. Now, this set is very nice, as he's most likely going to want to taunt my Reuniclus with his Tapu Fini, and in the case he does that, I hit it with an Infestation, and then I just whittle it down with Infestation plus Psychic, and until the point where he is no longer able to wall stuff. And like I said, he does have the tendency to run 50% berry on Fini rather than lefties, so that's going to let me chip it down a lot easier, since like Infestation into Psychic, it prevents him from switching out, and it guarantees me like 40% off the Fini every turn, which is pretty rad. And yeah, so this is meant to trap Fini, and it's also meant to trap the Crest, since I have Infestation plus Toxic. Unless he's like a Rest Crest with Mono Moonblast, I suppose, which would leave him walled by my Marini or something like that, which was definitely a viable mon in this game, given that it can wall stuff like Mienshao and Scizor. I figured he'd probably want more than one move on that if he was going for the setup route, but it was most likely he wouldn't bring a CM Crest because of the fact that it wouldn't beat Reuniclus more likely than not. So yeah, this is just a good way to lure that thing in. This is also a nice I'd say counter to Mienshao, since I take 2 knockoffs from it if he's the Scarf set, which is most likely. If he's not Scarf, he's not that big of a problem, since that means that both Hydreigon and Lopunny can outspeed and kill it, since I am a Scarf Hydreigon. the way his speed tiers work, I decided Modest would be pretty good. With this, I'm underspeeding like a max speed Tapu Fini if he decides to be Scarf Fini, but if he's Scarf Fini, I'm not really afraid of it, since my P2 and my Reuniclus should just wall it pretty easily. And I want the extra power from Modest, so that's, yeah. Nothing fancy here. Dark Pool, Dual Stab, U-Turn, Flamethrower to hit the Scizor. Dual Stab hits his team very hard. Obviously I'm walled by the Fini, but I have plenty of things that are going to lure that Fini in to take damage, and that sort of thing. So next I've got another thing to help me check his fat annoying mons, and that's a fast Skarmory. So people who've been might suspect that I kind of bring the same Skarm sets every week. This is a little different. Lefties with Sturdies, nothing new. Taunt, Rocks, Roost, Brave Bird, max HP, 124 defense, Impish, and 140 speed. This is letting me outrun Fini and Crest that have a few EVs dumped into speed. This also lets me outrun like a Scizor, so I can taunt it before it could potentially set up SDs in my face, which would be scary. And yeah, this is nice because I can get up Rocks, and if he is running that mid-speed Fini, which I really don't think he'll be running a fast Fini just based on my team, unless he anticipates me to run stuff like Adamant Lando and Modest Hydreigon, then he could run it, but I don't think he'd run a fast Crest in that case, and if I can taunt the Crest and stop it from being annoying, then that'd be fine by me. So yeah, that's pretty neat. This lets me take hits from the arrow, it takes hits from the Mienshao, it takes hits from insert physical attacker's name, Mudsdale, Miltank, Delmise. This was mainly here for pivot, for taunt, and to be able to wall the Scizor, which was looking like a bit of a threat since my Bullet Punch resist besides this are Marini and Seismitoad, and I didn't really feel like bringing either of those to this game. I'll bring Marini at some point, don't you worry about it, it'll come eventually, it just needs the right matchup. So yeah, that's that. Next I've got a cool Landorus set, so I've got Double Dance, SD Rock Polish with knockoff and EQ, with Darkinium Z to power up a Z knockoff. I've got 100 HP, max attack Adamant, 4 in both defenses, and enough speed to... What was I outspeeding with this? I believe... No, not in there. Not in there. I'm scattered. Fancy that. I believe this is enough speed to let me outrun a +2 Mienshao, or a Choice Scarf Mienshao once I'm at +2. That would make the most sense, obviously. I thought about the coverage I needed, and after running some calcs like knockoff and Darkinium Z and all that sort of thing, it does enough damage to where I don't need Stone Edge or I don't need Fly to really try and break past his Crest, which is the biggest thing that would try and wall me. I'm not sure, I wasn't sure if he was going to want to run Helmet Crest to chip my Lopunny, or if he was going to want like Colbur Berry to be a better check to my Hydreigon. Those were the two thoughts I was having, but either way, knockoff is great because while knockoff into Z knockoff can't knock out a Fizdef Crest because Crest is just that bulky and dumb, if I have an SD up and if I SD on the switch, then I can just fire off Z knockoff into knockoff, and I do take an Ice Beam from Crest from full with my HP investment and my enormous amount of special defense investments that I have made, obviously. And after running a few more calcs, like knockoff at +2 still does a ton to Aerodactyl. I believe if he's not too bulky, that at +2 I just knock it out with with a knockoff, so that's pretty great. So that was like one of the concerns I had when I was theorying modding through this team, but knockoff still does plenty since it's an Adamant Landorus and Mega Arrow isn't that bulky. And lastly, we have my Megalop. Now this thing is very important in checking the Naganadel because I have Fake Out Quick Attack, so the double priority with High Jump Kick and Return. I'm rocking Adamant, so I'm kind of foregoing outrunning a max speed Naganadel, frankly, because I don't care about it. Lopunny is mainly going to be in the back this game, since with stuff like Scarf Mienshao running around, like Banded / Life Orb Scizor throwing out bullet punches that do a ton of damage to me, Rocky Helmet Crest, just Fini being able to take hits from me. This doesn't have a lot of leeway in the early game, but this has a lot of potential late game once I'm able to weaken and chip things down. If he is reckless Mienshao, then I can just get really easy chip off with Fake Out. And with Adamant, in the case of Naganadel trying to pillage through just completely ravage my team, Fake Out plus Quick Attack. Fake Out does 35%, so I can Fake It Out, sack 1 mon, and then Fake Out plus Quick Attack again will be able to knock it out, so that's pretty cool. And you know, it's just an Adamant Lop. If the right things are whittled, then this thing is going to go ham. It outspeeds the majority of his team. If he's speed creeping my Whimsicott with Naganadel, then I will outspeed it with this investment, but mainly my goal was to use this as a way to revenge kill the Naga with my priority. So we'll see how my team does. Let's hop into the match. Now, like I more or less expected, he brought these 6. He kind of had to. I felt like his lower tier mons, while they could have some promise, just didn't do the things against my team that these top 6 had to be able to do. Like, he needs his 2 fat things to be able to check my offensive onslaught. He needs Mienshao for revenge killing. Scizor is a great wall breaker against me. Arrow is his best rocker. It gives him another way to revenge kill the Lopunny, and hit also revenge kill like Landorus and that sort of thing, and get his rocks up, since Miltank can't serve as a revenger and a rocker unless you're scarfed Miltank, which isn't good. And Naganadel is just, you know, the mon that should come to like every game since it's a big spooky threat. So yeah, those was pretty much what I anticipated. I'm just gonna lead off with my Hydreigon, since he likes to lead with Arrow, and if he does lead with his Mienshao, then I'll be thrown onto the back foot a little bit, but I honestly didn't consider it, and there was a very high possibility I'd lead Lando, and he wouldn't really want to beat Lando versus Mienshao since he doesn't gain anything from it, since he could give up like a slow U-turn, or just let me set up turn 1 and be able to knock something out or something like that. Let's get into the game. So he is going to lead off with his Arrow as I lead Hydreigon. This is great. I know he's going to fear Scarf, so I'm just going to click U-turn, especially since he has such a free switch into Finny, and also the fact that he can't knock me out with any one hit, barring like a crit, means that there's no point for him to, like, if I'm not scarfed, that he fires off an Ice Fang or a Stone Edge or whatever, I eat it and then kill him with a Specs, Flash Cannon, or Draco or whatever. So basically, I just am able to get into the situation I wanted. I'm really hoping I'll just go for the taunt right here, just kind of fall into my trap, and he is going to do that, which is great. We also see a few things from this. That U-turn damage actually tells me that he's going to be very physically defensive, which I assume would probably mean that he's just going to be fully physically defensive or some sort of mixed bulk, which I made the kind of mental leap to assuming that he's not going to be scarfed, or not going to be speed invested, and we'll kind of talk about that in a bit. But for the moment, I have trapped this thing, which is great. Also, he's not lefty, so I'm just assuming that he's going to be a like a Guave Berry or whatever, since I don't think he'll be scarfed. And if he's Scarf Taunt, then he's dead, but he goes for Moonblast, so he's not scarfed. Damage shows he's non-offensive. Psychic damage shows that he's max HP, but non-Spadef investor, non-heavily Spadef. So that pretty much my assumption at this point is he's a Fizz Def Tapu Fini, which is perfectly fine with me, because that should mean my Scarm can outspeed this thing, which will allow me to get my rocks up, because as you're gonna see here, I pop his Figgy Berry, and my taunt's gonna wear off. Now I'm gonna Psychic again right here, and he gets the drop. So because he got the drop, I'm not gonna be able to knock him out with Psychic into the Infestation. And now what I'm gonna do here is spam Recover, because if he can't get any, there's no point for me not to recover, because if he taunts, then I get the lefties back, and that's fine with me, and then I can switch. But if he goes for the Moonblast, then I'm just gonna keep on recovering till he forces me to stop, and then what I can do is go into Skarmory after that, get my rocks up, and then kill this thing, since I'm pretty confident he's not going to be able to outspeed my Skarm. So I'm going to heal up, and I'm going to heal up yet again. Now the reason I want to heal up is because this thing is very important for Mienshao if he's a Scarf set, then that would be very problematic for me, since I'd have to rely on my Landorus to deal with it, and if I let Landorus get chipped, then he can knock me out with like Ice Beam from Cresselia, and I won't be able to, then I won't have a Mienshao answer at all at that point, since I don't want Scarm coming on a high jump kick, since it still does quite a bit, since this isn't fully Fizz Def and high jump kick's really strong. Anyways, I'm at almost full, which is amazing for me. So I'm going to go into Scarm. He Moonblast. It doesn't do anything essentially. I'm going to go for Rocks, anticipating the taunt, as I do outspeed him, so I was correct in my assumption that he was Fizz Def. So I get my Rocks up, and this is most likely his Defogger. He confirmed it after the game. So what I'm going to be able to do here is fire off a Brave Bird and get rid of his Finny, get rid of his Hazard Removal, and most importantly, get rid of his Dark Resist. So now his, well, he also has Mienshao, but get rid of his Hydreigon counter. So that completely opens the door for my Hydreigon to start doing some work, as well as it gives a little more leeway for Lopunny. It's going to put a lot more pressure on the Crest, though Crest is pretty good at handling pressure. He's going to go hard into his Naganadel. I really considered going hard Hydreigon here on the predicted Fire Blast, but I knew that this potential Draco was a thing. He's gonna go for the Draco and he misses, which is unfortunate. I did have some Spadef, and well, I was calm natured, so I would have taken about 50 to 60% from this and would have been able to recover it off, no problem. But this is gonna put maintain momentum for me. I don't know, I was just assuming that he's gonna be Z move, because that's like Z move nasty plot completely wrecks me, since he can get speed boost and stuff. I'm gonna Infest here as he goes into Scizor. On the off chance he wanted to like pivot into Cress or something, scouting for the HP Fire or something like that, that could have been cool. But one thing that I've seen from Aaron is that he doesn't like to run U-turn Scizor. So in the case that you didn't have that, like Psychic's not doing that much. This thing's most likely gonna have Roost, since I have not seen him use Banded Scizor yet. So in the case that he doesn't have U-turn, this gives me the free switch into my Skarmory, and he can't double out on it, which is pretty cool with me. And I'm not anticipating this thing to be super fast either, so I can taunt it and beat it. He does show the Roost, and what I'm going to do here is just click taunt, as I don't want him to Swords Dance, because Swords Dance would be a problem. As he goes right for the superpower, he is that Life Orb set like I was anticipating. And just as a general note, like people who bring the same sets, that's like what I thrive off of. If I can predict exactly what you're gonna bring, then I can just really deal well with it. So I'm gonna Brave Bird, do 50% to this thing, which is pretty great, as he's gonna fire off a second superpower. Now I'm just gonna Roost back up here, because I want this thing alive so that I can take hits from the Mienshao. As he's gonna go into his Aerodactyl. Now this thing is not a threat to me. This thing does not scare me one bit. I'm just gonna go hard in P2. Because this thing can't 2-hit KO me, and I figured he'd either go for the Rocks or the Taunt here, and I figured he'd just taunt me right now, because I considered going for the Curse and just kind of going for game with my Porygon, but I figured in the likely case he'd have Taunt, since people, I've noticed a very big trend that people really love to spam Taunt against my team, since I have stuff like Skarmory, which is very tauntable. So I just go for the Foul Play right here to keep it in short, and that does a lot of damage, showing me that he's offensive. He's gonna Ice Fang, going for a little cheese, doesn't get it, and I'm able to take out the Aerodactyl. So now Lopunny's a little more opened up. He's gonna go Mienshao here. Now I'm very confident he's Scarfed, and that's why I stay in. The reason, so basically at this point, if he's Scarfed, then I don't think he goes for the high jump kick. I think he either knocks off like he does, or U-turns, predicting me to switch, since he's on such a on the back foot. Or if he's non-scarfed and he's like Life Orb, then he's free to go for the high jump kick. But that means that my Hydreigon can outspeed it, and my Lopunny can outspeed it, and then I'm honestly not afraid of this thing, since though it can wall break, I'm at a point in the game where I don't really need to rely on my walls. I can just use my offense to kind of finish it off. So he goes for knockoff, which tells me a lot. It tells me he's Scarfed more likely than not, since non-scarf you wouldn't feel the need to knock off lock or go for the knockoff. So I do a ton of damage with the return there. So if he's not regen, then he's dead to like a lop quick attack or whatever, which is great. He goes into the crest as I foul play right here. I figured it was just the best overall move in case he went Scizor and that somehow didn't kill, and there was no way that he'd go into his Naganadel, which would get blown back by analytic return. So foul play is good here because I pop his Culber Berry, which means well, now I can hit this thing a little harder with my Hydreigon. He goes for Toxic. I wasn't sure if he'd pack Toxic since he does have Finny, but it's very smart that he would since Terrain is only 5 turns, so that was smart on him to pack Toxic. Obviously, since Toxic is the way you beat P2s. I'm going to go into Skarm because I know I can beat this thing one-on-one. He does freeze me with Ice Beam, so I can no longer beat it one-on-one, and I'm just going to go hard into my Reuniclus. Now, if he doubled into his Scizor here, attempting to Roost up, that would have been bad for me, but I was willing to take that risk, and at this point, I felt that I would be able to handle the Scizor well enough with my Landorus. As he's going to go for the Ice Beam right here. Now I'm going to click Psychic because his only play here is to try and get his Scizor and a Roost up, and I figured Psychic would be enough to knock him out, and it is. So I'm going to take that Scizor out. Now he has nothing that can really threaten my Reuniclus, so at this point he can't break through the rest of my team, and I have enough offense to deal with him. He goes for U-turn. My play was always just click Recover right there, because one thing is, a Z Draco Meteor from Naganadel does not knock me out from full, so I don't want him to be in a situation where he's catching me in a point where I'm in range, because if he somehow manages to like get a nasty plot up, or if he's able to crit through my team and get the speed boost and stuff, then I'll be a very unhappy person. So basically I just wanted to give myself the best shot of not getting swept by Naga. Well, I wouldn't get swept at this point since I do have my Lop in the back, but you know what I mean, I feel. It would have cost me differential, and I'm just trying to make my most optimal plays. I'm going to Infest right here. Infest is just always my play, as I'm able to trap the Crest in, which is great, so I'm able to Toxic it. So my Reuniclus successfully got both of its mans, which I think is pretty sick. I was able to trap and severely weaken the Finny, and then now I'm able to trap and kill the Crest, as all I have to do right here is just spam Recover, stay at full health so that he doesn't get that beast boost with his Naga, unless he crits me, of course. And yeah, Reuni is able to do exactly what I tailored it to do, which is fantastic. Now here I'm just going to go ahead and click Recover, as if he U-turns into Naganadel, then I click Psychic on the following turn and we're good, and if he knocks off then I Recover, and then I Infestation, so there's no doubling around or any nonsense going, and it takes me a turn or two to realize that I can just go into my Landorus now and click Rock Polish and win. It just took me a second to realize that, since I was just kind of in the moment, but now I'm like, okay, yeah, I can just bring in Lando, click RP as he's forced to click Knockoff, and now I'm just going to knock out his Mienshao, and then I'm going to be able to kill off his Naga. I guess I could have just went for the Z move right there in case he was like Shuka Berry, but I still think he would have died to an EQ from there, since Naganadel is very frail and Landorus is very strong. So with that, we have a 6-0 victory against Aaron, which I'm really happy with. I felt my plan just went really well. I played it well, and it feels good to just allow my planning to kind of dictate how the game goes, and also be able to play well with the plan that I make. So yeah, we get a nice 6-0 victory, and we're now 2-2. We're in second place in our division, which is great. So now I am very much in the playoff picture again. Well, we have 8 more weeks, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to catch up Illusion, who is currently 4-0, and there's still some very tough opponents for me to play. We got a good chance. And also remember, always lock your door if you're in college and you're recording, so that people don't walk in randomly. Anyways, that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.